Hey, welcome to my blog. This is Gregory Elfring with Story Snob, and today I'm going to review Blood Meridian. Blood Meridian is a longish book. It's a western by Cormac McCarthy. You guys might have heard of that name because he's pretty famous for No Country for Old Men, which got made into a movie. Also, his other book, which is a little bit lesser known but still got made into a movie, is The Road. So you might be familiar with those titles. Well, Blood Meridian is his masterpiece. It really is. It's a extremely dark story that is about a young boy named the Kid, and you never really get to see his name, who basically goes through this indifferent, horrific life of being exposed to an amazing amount of bloodshed and horror. He follows this group of bandits called led by Glanton, a bandit leader who scalps Apaches and sells them back to the Mexican government, who later on, spoiler alert, goes and kills a bunch of innocent Mexicans along the countryside and then sells those scalps back to the Mexican government as if they were Apaches. So if that gives you a little bit of a taste of where this book is kind of going, that's probably one of the best things, one of the best ways to describe the premise. It's an extremely dark western that's not like anything you've ever read before. It's like I said, extremely violent and very philosophical, which is what makes the book in so much of a way more horrifying, because it is so philosophical. There's this character named the Judge, Judge Holden, that is probably my favorite character I've ever read in fiction. He has a silver tongue, he's quick of wit, he seems to be the only person, other than maybe the Kid, who can speak proper English, and he's insanely widely read. He talks about all sorts of mystical stuff, and as the book progresses, the shadow of the Judge becomes more and more insane, to the point where he becomes almost like this satanic, otherworldly being that is not even human. In fact, one of the characters even claims that perhaps he is not. And that ambiguity is really important to the book, because the whole book is extremely ambiguous, but even the way it's written. And so let's get into it. Let's get into the good points of Blood Meridian, then I'll get into the bad bits, and then I'll say who should buy this book and who would love to read this book. So, the good stuff. I already mentioned Blood Meridian is super dark, super violent. That's what I'm all about. I love that stuff. And while it's dark and violent, it doesn't go into a really crappy hostile mode. If you guys are familiar with that movie, or like the later Saws, where it's all about gruesome gore and all that bullshit that ruins the story. There's actually a very thick storyline to Blood Meridian, and it's the theme is really powerful about how fucking violent everything is, and dirty and messed up, and no one cares. Just a total indifference and jaded to violence and murder and mayhem. With that said, another good thing about it, and this is actually so one of the best things about it is the ending, which I'm not going to give away. But the ending is very sad and dark, which, if you know me at all when it comes to reading or writing stories, the darker the better, right? So, very good in that aspect. Very impressed. The bad things about Blood Meridian, which I only really had one really bad thing to say about Blood Meridian, and that's the way Cormac decides to express his artistic writing by not leaving any quotation marks, and he also misses out on a bit of the other punctuation. Now, I'm not harping him on that, because I have really bad grammar, but I don't do it on purpose. He does it on purpose. And it creates this effect where you have a bunch of characters sitting around a campfire, and they're all talking amongst each other, but you don't know who is really talking, because there's no quotation marks to let you know that someone is even talking. So it kind of goes into this weird, surreal phase where you think, well, maybe they're just thinking this, or, oh, wait, no, they are talking. Like, oh, who is talking? And it comes down to you only know when two people are really talking, and that's the Judge or the Kid, because they have such a unique way of talking versus the other people. Mainly because the Kid hardly says nothing. He just kind of lets a lot of horrible things happen around him. You kind of keep wishing that the protagonist would be good and trying to stand up against all this evil, but he doesn't really. He just kind of lets it go by, and he's the good character of them all, probably the most moralistically correct individual. Towards the end, he tries to make his gamut at redemption, and he kind of succeeds. You have to read it because it's part of the ending that really saddens everything. But there is awesome, awesome lines in Blood Meridian by Judge Holden where, he's talking about how war is God and is the greatest game in the world. He talks about nothing in this world exists without his consent as he's drawing in the sketchbook. And he's just so insane. Like, he's this 7-foot tall, totally hairless albino with these piercing eyes that knows the mysteries of the world. And it's terrifying for these people who are just like these stupid bloodlust imbeciles that are out there killing for profit and drugs and prostitution. Like, they're just all about the violence, and here you have their preacher, their leader almost, of this occult-like church dedicated to violence that they have begun. So, as you can tell, the book is really artistic if you haven't been able to tell based off of this little review. So let me get into the next part. So, who should read Blood Meridian? Now, I mentioned the quotations and punctuation mark, so that should give you a clue if you're not an experienced literary reader and you don't really enjoy challenging reads. I would not recommend this book at all because there are points where it is challenging. Other people have found the writing to be pretentious. That Cormac actually goes on long, boring drones and there's nothing really going on, which I didn't feel at all when I read it. I really loved it. I thought it was an amazing, amazing book about how wild the West was and kind of how we conquer it in the end, and we conquer that wildness, that evilness, and create order out of the chaos, the form out of the void, if you will. To quote a Lovecraft/True Detective reference. But yeah, so the people that should read this book, people who are really, really impressed by ambiguous literature of a dark nature, people who enjoy a challenging read as well as philosophical sentiments plugged into the book. People who enjoy violence will really, really love this book, especially the people who are good enough readers to pick up on a lot of those little things, because there's a lot of really horrible things that happen behind the scenes that Cormac just kind of lets on, but he doesn't go into full-on description of what they are. But for the Canadian reader, it's very, very obvious, especially with Judge Holden, like a certain pedophilic murder scenes that it isn't exactly bold in the description, thank goodness. But yeah, so those are the people that should buy this book. If you love a cerebral, dark, violent portrait of an old world that no longer exists, it's an awesome read. The last thing too that I will add, and it's really eerie, I found out after I read it, but apparently the crew that Cormac McCarthy is writing about, Glanton's crew, the bandits that go around murdering everyone, they actually existed. They were a real menace back in the West, and there actually was a guy named the Judge, but he was very ambiguous. No one really knows what he's like. I extremely doubt that he was this demonic, otherworldly being of insane powers and intellect that Cormac has created Judge Holden into, but who knows? What do I know? Anyhow, this is Gregory Elfring with Story Snob. If you are interested in buying Blood Meridian, I have two good pieces of good news for you. Go ahead and subscribe to my email newsletter. I'll let you know when I do another review like this or whatever with stories, or you can keep up to date with my own stories. And also, you can click on the Amazon link below. Then it will take you to an affiliate link. I will make money if you buy that, and that's kind of how I'm supporting myself with this website. So please buy it through my link, unless you absolutely fucking hate me. Which, in that case, sorry, I can't really do anything about that. Alright, so I'll talk to you later. Till next time, guys.